so much of me wants to just go put The Big Lebowski in there.
Paddington 2.
Ask us anything. It has been a while since we have done one of these. It's been several months, and the questions have been piling up. Urgent questions that you're just seething with desire
Boiling over
to know. So we grabbed a bunch of them. Thank you guys so much for putting in your questions. We love hearing from you. That was really fun. All right, so we're going to begin with Camille Montano. What would you guys say is the hardest part about your jobs that most people don't realize? I love looking at different careers in their totality. I need more of my glasses for this. So it would be nice to get a bigger picture of being a film critic. I would say for me, the hardest thing is the 2 or 2.5 star review, right? Like it's really easy to have it flow out of you when you love something or you hate something. But it's those ones where like, oh, it's got some merit, or oh, I didn't hate it, or it's got its moments. Like those for me are hard to muster to be articulate about those.
Yeah, that I agree. But I also have a hard time with the movies I really, really love, because you really want to do them justice, and you want to share what exactly made you so enthusiastic in a way that will hopefully get other people to see it. And so I feel a lot of pressure with that. All of which to say, by the way, just to be clear, we are very aware and grateful of the fact that we have like a really cool job that people want to have. I always like to say I'm not a janitor in a slaughterhouse. A lot of people have much harder jobs than I do. I would say the other tricky part is covering a festival and having to just like jam them out, where like you'll go to an 8 a.m. press screening and then immediately have to sit down and start writing up a thing and getting it out into the ether, and like doing that 2 or 3 times a day can be kind of exhausting. And you really, you want to get it right, then you don't have the time to sort of like sit on it and stew on it and reread it and that kind of thing the way you normally would. So that can be tricky too.
There are so many films that you really want to marinate over. Like, we recently reviewed Bardo. It'd be hard to like jam out of Venice and go write 1,000 words on Bardo.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I remember when Tree of Life premiered at Cannes, I just thought, I would not want to have to just like out an opinion about that one.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good question. Thank you. Kay the Replicant asks, seems like Matt and Ben are not coming back permanently. Have you ever thought about adding another person? You've had some great guest reviewers that I think would be perfect fits. I can't really see us at this point in time adding somebody permanently. I've loved having friends step in, and that's been a lot of fun. And I like the different kind of energy that can bring. Yeah. But I don't know. I won't speak for you.
It's such a tricky thing. And I think it's sort of hard to ask somebody to commit to the amount of time that we put into this. So yeah, I'm with you. I love our sort of rotating, bullpen of guest critics who come in and offer insights. And yeah, you're right. They add a little, they put their own zazz on the episodes they're doing. But, I think at this point, it's our baby.
Indeed. Zach Maynard asks, which of the following viewing experiences do you prefer and why? Film premiere, film festival, critic screening, screener at home. I think it totally depends on what the movie is. It totally depends on what we're about to watch. For the most part, I don't love premieres, and I don't think you do either.
No. They never start on time. You often don't get to pick where you're going to sit. And you are surrounded by cast and crew who are very inclined to be very enthusiastic about every single thing. Yeah. And that's always kind of a weird dynamic to be in.
But then the flip side of that is sometimes there's like something cool afterward, or like the whole experience. Like I know you have been to some of the Star Wars ones where they'll shut down all of Hollywood Boulevard and it's just an extravaganza. So it's kind of cool to be in the middle of that. Like when Bob's Burgers premiered, I brought Nick with me, and that was kind of fun. It was at the El Capitan. They had like little mini burgers. Like he loves that show. So that was kind of fun to bring him. But for the most part, and a film festival too, like that can be kind of cool to be in the crowd that's seeing something for the first time. Sure. But again, that's also sort of an unreliable energy, because let's say you're at South by Southwest in Austin and you're in that giant theater, the Paramount, and you're playing a Judd Apatow movie.
Exactly. That's definitely an audience that is primed. I've certainly been to festivals like, when we talked about Violent Night, I saw that at Beyond Fest, and that was very much an audience that was primed and pumped to be there. So yeah, it can throw you off a little. I do like doing festival Q&As, having been a festival programmer for a long time. Those I find interesting. I mean, all things being equal, I would probably say a critic screening, just because there's a minimum of sort of pomp, and you don't have to deal with like. I don't mind going to a screening where they've also opened it to the public, but I resent it when they do it thinking that somehow we're not going to really get like a comedy or a horror movie if we don't see it without like regular folks having responses, because we're all dead inside,
Through sheer osmosis, we're going to enjoy this more.
Exactly.
I like going to critic screenings too, because so much of what we do is so solitary, especially in the last 2.5 years. So to see our friends is like going to the office.
Absolutely. Yes. That
part is nice too. Okay. Hot sauce water gun. That's a fun name. For fun, if you could throw a Snickers bar at any filmmaker, alive or dead, who would it be? I mean, obviously, Uwe Boll.
Well, are they catching it, or am I like heaving it at their head? That's kind of the difference.
That's a really good question, right? Something better reflexes. Spielberg, cat-like reflexes.
Either way, I'll say Adam Sandler. If he wants to have a Snickers, great. If it also strikes him, I won't cry.
He's cranky and he needs a little blood sugar boost.
Yes,
Adam
he's
Sandler.
hangry.
But then for serious, is there a film that changed your life? Is there a film that changed my life? I don't so hard. There are ones that are so formative to me from my childhood, like The Wizard of Oz, like The Sound of Music that I saw that like planted my early love of film in me.
Sure.
What about you?
Yeah, it's hard to sort of nail it down to one. Like I was talking about, the first movie I remember seeing in the theater was, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And that's a movie that's really stayed with me. Like a movie that I think about, I'll tell you, this is maybe not quite what the question was, but I do remember feeling seen in a way the first time I saw a queer 80s indie movie called Parting Glances. And I had just started my first relationship with someone. And there were moments in that movie that I was like, like they really kind of spoke to me in a way of somebody who was finally like, being out of the closet, being involved with somebody else, that felt very like, that I was able to recognize as like these things that I was encountering in my own life.
And that's why I bet things like Love Simon and Love Victor are probably very helpful for young queer kids who don't know what they're feeling, and like finally have someone on screen reflecting what they're doing.
Absolutely. Because I think we all kind of grow up seeing things in the movies and thinking of them as they're either aspirational or they're supposed to be aspirational, and it gives you something of a blueprint to imagine what that situation with you would look like,
Yeah. But a couple that can kind of go together. Kay Rosewall and Will Jones both ask what we would put on a hypothetical sight and sound ballot. And then Kay Rosewall also asks can we possibly review Jean Dielman on a future show. And like, for sure, I've never seen it. So I think we should. It's a good idea.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. I mean, Rules of the Game would be on my list for sure. Citizen Kane would be on my list. Singing in the Rain. Probably an Almodovar film, either Women on the Verge or All About My Mother. This is where it gets tricky.
It's so hard. It's so hard because how much of it is like, I love this movie and it's personal, and how much of it is it like, this matters culturally and you got to put it in that time capsule for all of eternity.
Yeah, I mean, I would try and do movies that are both, where like the thing I always say about Citizen Kane, I think people think it's this because it's become such a like face on Mount Rushmore that people think it's this thing. And I'm like, but it's fun. It is a classic and it's an important film, in the canon of cinema, but it's entertaining and it's breezy and it's funny and it's got a lot of like, it zips along really well. So I hope people don't think it was being too overwhelming, but yeah, so my list I would try and have movies that both mean something to me personally and that I get pleasure in watching, but that also sort of, fill this void of, or not void, but sort of, represent art and the medium of cinema,
I mean, it's hard to make this list without sounding totally basic, right? Like Citizen Kane and Casablanca and Vertigo, like, movies that matter, although it's not my favorite Hitchcock, but it's
not even my top 10 Hitchcock.
Yeah. Strangers on a Train is my favorite.
Yeah. Notorious.
So like for me, it's like The Wizard of Oz and The Sound of Music again, but also like No Country for Old Men and maybe Do the Right Thing. Like I don't know the answer to this question. Like so much of me wants to just go put The Big Lebowski in there.
Paddington 2.
It's a really personal thing, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the whole like fear of comparison. Like, well, what did they put on their list? Like, what did the fancy critics put on their list?
Don't peek at your neighbors.
You can't. I don't really know. I don't know. And I like that Jean Dielman is now, the best film ever because it's just different. It's just a totally different kind of vibe, and it reflects an evolution in who all is picking.
Yeah, I don't think it means any more or less that Jean Dielman is the greatest film ever made, according to this poll, than it did when Bicycle Thieves or Citizen Kane or Vertigo topped it. Like it's a collection of certain people's opinions. But I'm glad that people are talking about Jean Dielman and maybe watching Jean Dielman for the first time, because it is a great movie, and it is both important and, I think, fascinating.
Have you ever walked out of a movie? Asks David Palmer. If so, what movie and why?
I remember I walked out of 50 First Dates. Speaking of Adam Sandler, that movie just got on my nerves, and it was. I just found it so irritating, and because of the structure, I was like, "Oh God, we have to go through this like 45 more times." I can't. I'm out, and I wasn't reviewing it, so it didn't matter. So I walked out of that one. I've definitely turned off a lot of movies like that I was watching for festival programming, where you get like 20, 25 minutes in, you're like, this. No matter how great this movie might become, it can't overcome what I've already had to sit through.
It's not going to get any better. Yeah, I walked out of the first Saw. And I've never seen a Saw since.
Yeah.
I was living in New York, and there's a moment where there's like a mom and a kid, and there's a gun to their heads, and they're like trembling and sobbing, and it just felt so like wallowing in their misery in a way that just like struck me wrong. And I wasn't even a parent then. I didn't even want to have a kid at this point in my life, but it just like, it really bothered me in a way that I'm like, I don't want to sit through any more of this. And I've never seen a Saw since. So
that was the last Saw you saw.
I have not seen a Saw. Do you guys prefer reviewing movies in the podcast or in written form on The Wrap and RogerEbert.com? Also, really random question I wanted to ask. As sites like Letterboxd, where everyone can be a movie reviewer, grow more and more popular, film critics seem to be less significant to the public eye. Oh, do we now? Do you guys feel a difference before and after those websites are as popular? This is from someone named Dunkakino.
Dunkachino.
Well, no, it's Dunkakino.
Oh, okay. Dunkakino then.
There you go. Don't question me.
All right.
I'm teasing. So I do like the fact that I can do both, and I feel like each of them helps the other. I like the fact that I've been a writer my entire life, and so that has given me like a structure and a cohesion, hopefully. That it flows, that it's fluid, and it makes sense and all that. But I also like that I can just talk, and I feel like they each help each other. Like being able to do it in a podcast or on radio requires some brevity, and like being able to get to the point and be succinct and use your words efficiently. And that translates over to writing.
Yeah, I agree. Writing sort of lets you kind of collect your thoughts together, but at the same time, it's all you. Whereas like in this format, we're able to kind of go back and forth and exchange ideas and, see where we, or with any of the podcasts that I do. So yeah, I think they each have their appeal. As for Letterboxd, I would argue that the internet in general has kind of dug into, the status of film critics, in that we used to be the only ones that you would see in any kind of mass medium, whether it was on TV or in newspapers or in magazines or whatever, sort of like, talking about films. But now, as long as there's been an internet, whether it was, rec arts, boards or, Letterboxd or LiveJournal or Twitter or whatever, like I think anybody can sort of put forth their ideas about things and reach and have some public reach to that. So, there's definitely been I guess a democratization of the process, but, I do think that there's something to be said for, people who are, who know what they're talking about and who've seen a lot of movies. I mean, like everybody has, the feeling that they come away with from a movie, and then their opinion is valid in that sense. But I think the opinions of people who have seen a lot of movies, who have studied how film works, I think they bring more to the table than the casual observer who maybe sees 2 or 3 movies a year. And so it's good that everybody can, participate in the process.
And you can find who you think works best for you.
Absolutely.
You have choices.
Or like if you always disagree with me, great, keep watching.
That's part of the fun. I always say disagreeing is part of the fun. Nom Finello Malloy. Does RRR have a chance to get nominated for Best Picture, or will it get snubbed? I kind of don't see it happening. That's a wonderful idea. It's very exciting. I can see it maybe in like best original song, but I don't know. I think that's a nice idea.
I mean, not for lack of trying. They are really like, I get emails all the time about screenings in Los Angeles and events with the director, and like they're really putting on a full-throated campaign for the movie. And our friend Carlos Aguilar recently tweeted about going to some Academy event and talking to older Academy members and being surprised at how much enthusiasm there was among them for RRR.
That's great.
So like that it's actually playing to like, viewers in their 60s and 70s, who are members of the Academy. So you never know.
Maybe I'm wrong. I'd like to be wrong on this. That'd be great. Yeah. What is a good, so bad it's good Christmas movie to watch? Asks, I want to get this right, Pranav Updaye.
Well, I will say this is a good area for the sort of Mystery Science Theater, Riff Tracks, Cinematic Titanic universe. All of them have done versions of Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, and none of them repeated jokes. Like that's how fertile that film is for mockery.
A rich text.
Absolutely. The Mystery Science Theater of the Mexican Santa Claus is a great episode, although I have over the years kind of come to love the Mexican Santa Claus for all of its craziness. MST also did a movie called The Christmas That Almost Wasn't, which is this really batty 60s kids movie. And in fact, this Friday they're premiering. Oh, wait, when is this airing again?
This comes out on the 23rd.
Okay. Then yes, you can now see on the Gizmoplex, because it already premiered, The Christmas Dragon, which features like all 3 MST hosts. So those are all fun. Beyond that, it's kind of a matter of taste, I think any movie that has Thomas Kincaid's name in the title kind of has some chuckles with it, but maybe that's not your speed of thing. And like,
The Painter of Light guy?
The Painter of Light guy. Yes. There were a couple of movies that were sort of branded with him. And there are some that are just like so bad, they're bad, like that terrible Nutcracker with Elle Fanning and, Nathan Lane as Albert Einstein. But I wouldn't recommend that to anyone.
No, that was terrible. That was not good. Well, that's a good one to leave you on then as we approach Christmas here.
Yeah.
Thank you guys all so much for hanging out with us all year long. Enjoy the holidays. We'll do another one of these really soon, beginning of 2023 for sure.
Happy holidays.
Here's my problem. I love Christmas cookies and candy. I love it all. But I also happen to have this awesome Carol bike, which makes it easy to get a workout in during these busy times. I love to run. I'm training for a marathon, but there's not always time to get that full workout in. The thing with Carol bike that is so great is you can get a whole, efficient, really tough workout in a matter of like 8 minutes. So here's how it works. It walks you through it. You get to pick out what kind of music you want. You have a whole screen here with different kinds of songs. So let's pick pop for fun. We hit start. It says, hi, welcome. And it works you out. It tells you you're in for the ride of your life, which of course you are. And it says, do 2 10-second sprints. It tells you how fast to go. Pedal very slowly. Don't want to get too hot. I mean, I can't help that. Otherwise, you'll sweat. It tells you how fast. I'm going too fast. So you go slowly for 2 minutes, and then it just walks you through it. And then you sprint, and then you slow down, and then you sprint, and then you cool down. You feel really, really great afterward. So here's the deal. We have a little code for you. Breakfast all day in all caps. So go to the link below in the description. You get $250 off your bike if you get one before January 31st. After that, it's $100 off. So we're all putting on weight. We're all eating too much. We're all sitting around doing nothing. Carol Bike can help you get back into shape.